The only security of all is in a free press, said Thomas Jefferson, one of the founding fathers of America. 200 years on, the words make more sense than ever before. A case in point is Pakistan, where the government has launched a crackdown on social media, ostensibly to curb blasphemous content. But what's really happening is this. More than 200 accounts are under the scanner in that country, mostly belonging to journalists. They're being harassed for speaking out, for questioning the army, for reporting on the human rights violations going on. And one of them is WION's Islamabad Bureau Chief Taha Siddiqui, targeted for doing his job. While many suffer in surrender, he's fighting this illegal censorship. Tonight on Gravitas, we focus on the freedom of press, rather the lack of it in Pakistan, where more than 40 journalists have been killed in the past decade for exposing the truth. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay, the headlines this Monday. US President Donald Trump and Pakistan Prime Minister shake hands at the Arab Islamic American Summit in Riyadh, but little else happens, dashing Islamabad's hopes of a summit-level meeting between the two leaders. The North Korea threat is now a clear and present danger. The country says it is now ready to start mass-producing a new medium-range missile capable of reaching Japan, calls it an answer to Donald Trump's policies. Nine Sri Lankan ministers get new portfolios in a major cabinet reshuffle. President Maithripala Sirisena says the reshuffle will give new impetus to the country's development. Turkish police detained two teachers who've been on a hunger strike for more than 2 months. They were protesting a government crackdown in which they lost their jobs following last year's failed coup. Also on the show, our special focus, Donald Trump, once seen as the staunchest ally of Israel, has left Tel Aviv very upset on his very first visit there. We'll tell you why. And a half-Indian gay politician is tipped to be the next Prime Minister of conservative Ireland. We'll tell you more about him. Plus, how does Facebook decide what you see on your timeline? We'll tell you all about their moderators or content filters. But the big story we're tracking, Donald Trump in Israel, getting to know an old and favored American ally. But his poor grasp of foreign policy is not winning him any friends in Tel Aviv.
On my first trip overseas as president, I have come to this sacred and ancient land to reaffirm the unbreakable bond between the United States and the State of Israel. We have before us a rare opportunity to bring security and stability and peace to this region and to its people, defeating terrorism, and creating a future of harmony, prosperity, and peace. But we can only get there working together. There is no other way.
Many Israelis may have discerned a sting in Donald Trump's remarks on arrival in Tel Aviv when he referred to peace and prosperity by working together. This was not the man who'd promised to shift the US embassy to Jerusalem, nor the man who welcomed Jewish settlements on Arab land. The fact is, in the weeks preceding the visit, Trump had ground every Israeli illusion to dust. The most recent related to him disclosing classified intelligence received from the Israelis to the Russians. The online BuzzFeed magazine quoted Israeli officials as saying, quote, "There is a special understanding of security cooperation between our countries. To know this information is shared with others without our prior knowledge, that is for us our worst fears confirmed," unquote. Add to that a series of public statements that alternately pleased and angered the Israelis. It's now clear that the US embassy is not moving to Jerusalem. This implies Trump's acceptance that Jerusalem is disputed between Israelis and Arabs. Then why visit the Western Wall in Jerusalem? And why reject an Israeli proposal that Prime Minister Netanyahu accompany him to the wall? Publicly, the Israelis are expected to go along with Trump's line, as they can ill afford giving up the $3 billion in military aid the US doles out every year. But they may put more effort in cultivating his son-in-law Jared Kushner, who is of the Jewish faith. Bureau Report, WION.
So we're waiting for how this plays out in the region and what happens then to the peace process, because remember, Donald Trump has publicly said that he is ready, he's prepared to broker, as he called it, the ultimate deal. His predecessor, Barack Obama, too said it with a fair degree of confidence back in 2010 when he told the United Nations that Palestinians should be ready to have their own state within 1 year. That did not materialize, of course, and Barack Obama did make 2 efforts, both failed before he left office. Now, Donald Trump says that he is convinced, and he said it on more than one occasion, including at that summit in Saudi Arabia, that he is going to be able to broker peace. It's going to be difficult, but he will be able to do it, is how he's put it. What's interesting to note is that he also ran a pro-Israel campaign. He stabbed into 3 Orthodox Jews, Ambassador David Friedman, his own son-in-law Jared Kushner, and advisor Jason Greenblatt. And it solidified the favor of the Jews for Donald Trump, but this visit may have soured some of it. So has Donald Trump reconsidered America's strategy and more or less tried to do what his predecessors did? Or is this more a faux pas than a premeditated strategy, is the question that we are going to ask. We will be joined by a panel, Dr. Waila Wad, writer and political analyst, a South Asia expert, expected to join us from New Delhi. James N. Dorsey, senior fellow at the RSIS in Singapore, and Mohammed Al-Qasim, the Middle East correspondent of I-24 News, will be with us from Jerusalem. So we're looking at what comes out of this visit. Where does this leave the relations between Washington and Tel Aviv, and how are policy experts, more importantly, looking at Donald Trump, who has become infamous for U-turns, whether it be on Bashar al-Assad or North Korea, and now the case of Israel, where famously he said a few weeks back that he doesn't have a preference between a one-state and a two-state solution. So while we still wait for reactions from Israel, Donald Trump, this is his maiden visit to Saudi Arabia, and symbolically very significant as well. The first direct flight ever from Saudi Arabia to Israel was Donald Trump's flight. It's a first for Air Force One as well. Flew from Riyadh to Tel Aviv. And that breaks some symbolic barriers. Joining us on the phone line is James M. Dorsey, Senior Fellow at RSIS in Singapore. Mr. Dorsey, good evening. How many diplomatic blunders have you counted so far?
I think there are several things one has to take into consideration here. First of all, many U.S. presidents have tried to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and have failed to do so. The prerequisites for a resolution, both among the Israelis as well as among the Palestinians, are not there. And Donald Trump may have great confidence in his ability to make deals, but this is one deal that is going to take a lot of time and probably prove much more difficult than he thinks. There are, however, several factors. Already when Benjamin Netanyahu first visited the White House after Trump came to office, Trump made clear that he had already changed his position on settlements, and he asked the Prime Minister to curb settlement construction, something that has not gone down very well in Israel. On the other hand, the issue of the moving of the embassy to Jerusalem, no Israeli politician will oppose it, but a majority of Israeli politicians privately do not want it to happen because they understand that that would provoke an uprising on the West Bank and probably in the Gaza Strip. And it would also disrupt relations that are developing between Israel and primarily the Gulf states, as well as Egypt and Jordan.
So he was seen as the staunchest ally of the Israelis, and then he went and visited the Western Wall and spoke about this embassy and so on and so forth, and also said that it doesn't matter if Mr. Netanyahu accompanies him. There's been a fair bit of controversy over his very first visit. What has changed, according to you?
Trump has no great difficulty in changing his positions, and he's able to do so freely, in part because his domestic support base has no problem with it. I think one of the things that you've got to look at is the succession of Middle Eastern visitors to the White House in recent weeks and months. Trump does not have a great span of attention, and in many ways, the last person who speaks to him is the one who's most influential. The last person to speak to Trump before he left for the Middle East was the Deputy Crown Prince of the United Arab Emirates. And they have made clear that there are deals to be made with Israel that would take the relations from sort of unofficial status that they have to a more status, but that that's part of what is motivating.
Right, we seem to have lost the link there, but Donald Trump, on his part, has declared a rare opportunity for peace as he visited Israel. Of course, foreign policy experts see him muddling affairs more than helping them, but that's how it is. That's how the American president is looking at things. We are going to take a short break. When we come back, we will discuss this further.